So I have a drawing here, just a simple drawing showing the top of a plug with the chambers, 5 chambers drilled into the plug. And the point here is that no matter how precise they are, they're not going to be perfectly aligned. And because they're not perfectly aligned, now these are exaggerated. They're not going to be this bad. This is just an exaggeration to make the point. But even if they're off just 1 or 2 thousandths, it's going to make a difference. And so what happens is if you put tension on the plug to rotate the plug, the pins inside the chambers will hit against the wall of the shell. And so, for example, in this example, if you turn this clockwise, in other words, it's going to move this over, this one being the furthest to the right, this pin stack would hit against the shell first. And if you lift up on that while holding tension, turning tension on the plug, it will trap that upper pin above the shear line. And so if it traps that one, the next one probably would be this one right here. It looks like it's the next furthest to the right, and then this one, and then this one, and then finally this one. Now if you were rotating it to the counterclockwise, going this direction, then this one here obviously would hit first, probably followed by this one, this one, this one, and this one. So it's the alignment, or we should say the misalignment of these chambers that is going to help us to pick the lock open. There's a drawing that I have showing a tension wrench in the top of the keyway, putting pressure on the plug with a hook pick, sliding in the keyway underneath the tension wrench and picking up the pins in the first chamber. Here's a drawing showing the tension wrench at the bottom of the keyway and using a rake pick to rake the picks with, which would be going in, sliding in over the top of the tension wrench. The idea is that we can go into the lock, put tension on the plug so that it tries to turn one way or the other, and then pick these pins up one at a time until the top pin is trapped above the shear line. Possibly we go to the middle pin, the third pin, and we pick it up. We trap its top pin. We may feel the plug move slightly. Then we look for the next pin that might be kind of sticky. Which pin is sticking a little bit? That's the one that will trap next, usually. That's the one that will trap the easiest. So we just go from pin to pin, looking for which one has a little bit of stickiness to it, and we push that one up until all 5 of the top pins are trapped above the shear line. Okay, so I put this plug back into this mortise cylinder, and I want you to notice that the plug will turn a little bit. In the locked position, it will turn slightly. And that's what we're going to use to put the tension on the pins. As this comes around up here, the side of this plug will press against the pins, and that will allow us to push the bottom pin up, trap the top pin above the shear line, and hold it there. So that's the theory. As you begin your study of lockpicking, recommend first that you take a half diamond or a hook pick and go in and just explore what the pins feel like in the lock. Pick them up, count them, get used to how much tension is on the pin stacks. And once you've done that, then put a little bit of pressure on that plug with your tension wrench, very, very light, and see if you can feel one that's now a little sticky. That's the one that we want to pick up first. We're going to pick it up and then go to the next one. Now you notice I'm letting the pressure off the tension wrench. If I don't feel what I'm looking for, it's possible I pushed one of the pins too high right off the bat, and it's not gonna unlock. So I let the pressure off and start over. You can hear them drop back down. There it is, just like that. Lock is opened. So that's the theory behind picking locks. We use the following 4 elements to pick locks: knowledge of the locks, manufacturing flaws, design flaws, and lock-picking tools. I have the quickset lock here that we were looking at mounted on the display board. I'm going to pick it open. I'm going to just use a regular tension wrench and a hook pick, and I'm going to go in there and I'm going to feel for pins, just like we were talking about. Feel for which pins are a little bit sticky and pick them up to the shear line and see if we can get this lock to open. Here we go. Okay, so that's the idea. And now I'm going to go through 4 different locks, and we'll talk about different techniques as I do those 4 locks. And I have 4 locks that I've picked out here. I have a Schlage deadbolt lock, I have a quickset deadbolt lock, I have a mortise cylinder, which you will run into many of these. These are very common on storefronts that have glass doors with aluminum frames. Very popular lock. And I also have a lever handle lock that we'll try to pick. And I'm going to just try to go straight through them and pick them as quickly as I can, and at the same time demonstrate the different techniques. I would get my favorite tension wrench, and I've already explained that's the one that has the handle that's turned at 90 degrees. Well, before I put that in there, I would do a couple of things. I would take my diamond pick and I would check the lock to make sure that the lock is clean, there's no trash in there, there's no key broken off in there, that the pins are moving fairly freely. And I would also ask the owner where the key for this lock is, because it could be a miscommunication when they called you and said they couldn't open the lock, that you thought the key was missing. It might be they have the key, but the lock is broken. Maybe the tail piece broke off the back or something. So you don't want to spend time picking the lock open if the lock is broken at the back. So I try to make it a point to always ask where the key is. Then I would spray the lock with WD-40. I've already sprayed these locks. By the way, all of these locks are 5-pin locks. All 5 pins are in each of these locks. And I have, like I say, I've sprayed these with WD-40, which is one of the first things I would do once I got ready to pick the lock. And again, I try to make sure that everything is moving well in there. And then I would go to my rake pick. And the first pick I like to use is the rake to see if I can just simply rake the pins and open the lock that way. Now, just to show this one more time, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be trying to raise those pins up. So going back and forth and get them to all come to the top at the same time, get them all even up there. And then we're going to use tension with our tension wrench to hold them there, and when we get all 5 up there, hopefully we're going to be able to open the lock. When you come to the door, hopefully the lock is in the position that you expect, with the bottom of the keyway at the bottom of the lock housing. Sometimes you'll come to the job and you'll find the lock upside down. Many locks are installed upside down. So practice both ways. When we do the lever handle lock, we will have to open with the keyway on the horizontal. So practice from various positions as you practice your lock picking skills. So I've already checked to make sure the lock is clean. We sprayed it with WD-40. We asked where the key was. We know we need to pick the lock open. And then I'd begin with my rake and put light tension, very light tension on the tension wrench. Begin to rake. I usually go to the back and come forward with just light tension on the wrench. And we can listen and see when we release the tension off the wrench, do we hear any pins pop back down? And there were a couple that time that popped back down. So we know we are getting some of the pins up there. So try from the back, coming forward, and then let the tension off the wrench, let them reset, because it's possible that we pushed one of the pins up too far, and we have the bottom pin stuck up here. So let the pressure back off with very light tension. Try again, and the lock is opened. We'll take the mortise cylinder, count the number of pins, see if it's a 5 or 6 pin lock. We would check for trash, make sure there's no broken key, ask the owner where the key is, take our tension wrench, put it in the bottom, get our rake, go to the back, gently rake the pins forward. Let the tension off, start over. Normally, I only do light, medium, and alternating tension. I start at the back and rake forward, and then I'll begin at the front and rake backwards. And look, the lock opened on that one. It didn't like the back coming forward, but it opened right away on the front going to the back. So I'll go from the let me lock this back. Always turn your lock back. Remember that the owner can't get his key back in there if you don't turn it back before you leave. So to explain the different techniques that I use, and you'll again develop your own pattern, I normally go to the back and come forward. I'll try that. I'll come to the front and go to the back. A few times I'll try that. And then I'll start in the middle and go to the back, middle to the front, middle to the front, middle to the back. And I will do each of those with different tensions. I'll use light, medium, and then alternating tension. And then if that doesn't work, and I go through all of my different picks, I use the rake pick first, I'll use the half diamond, I'll use the J hook, and that doesn't work, then I will begin to use other techniques. I will use medium to heavy tension on the wrench, and I'll try that. Now the other thing to think about as you're doing this is, how does the tip of the tool touch the pins? Or are you touching the pins right underneath them, pretty directly on? That's one technique. The other thing that we can do is go to the side, try to go and push them more from one side or more from the other side. So all of those can be used, starting at the back, coming forward, directly under the pins, coming from the back to the front, more or less pushing to the right side. Do the same thing, pushing to the left side. Do this, all of those things using light tension, medium tension, or heavy tension. There's a number of ways to approach it. So you get your pattern down and just go through the pattern. Once you've got the pattern down, just go through it. Now I was going to try the diamond here. Again, starting at the front and going through. well, I'd already done the back as I was talking. I did the back a couple times, and then I was ready to do the front. And there, again, the front, starting at the front works the best, and you can see that it opened again, starting at the front, with fairly light tension on the tension wrench. So there's those are 2 locks down. Okay, so we have the Schlage lock. We are again, going to check for trash in the lock, make sure there's no broken key in the lock. Get our tension wrench, take our rake. I normally go to the back. Now on the Schlage lock, the Schlage and some other locks have a little tighter keyways, and one thing that I've done with my, if I have to go to my half diamond, you see that I've filed it down a little bit on the back of it, on the back side of the pick. It's filed down so that I can get it underneath the pins easier. Sometimes it's difficult to get under the pins without raising them so high that the lock won't open. Again, I would first start with my rake with very light tension, going from the back to the front. And you can hear these pins when they come back down. The Schlage pins must have stronger springs, so you can hear them popping back down. At least this one does anyway. So going from the back to the front. Now again, very light tension, try the front to the back. See if that'll do the combination that we need. Go to the middle, go back, middle, front. Try the different, what I did just then, and you see the lock open, I went a little bit to the right side of the pin, so I was more on the right side with the pressure on the pick, and you see it came right open. So that was the combination to open this. Now I'd like to demonstrate the spinner, the plug spinner at this point. And I showed this earlier, that let's say that we opened this, we picked this lock in a counterclockwise direction, and that was the wrong way. The lock would not open that way. We need to bring it the other way. So, as I pointed out earlier, that's where the plug spinner, if we bring this back to the 12 o'clock position, the top dead center, it will lock again, and we're going to have to pick it open again. So just to save time in doing that, we're going to go ahead and turn right to the right in the clockwise position and push in till you heard it set. And we want to be about the 4 o'clock position. We don't want to be at 5 or 5:30. At 4 o'clock, it gives us enough room to get some momentum so that this plug can spin back to the 9 o'clock position. So we've got it set. We just put it into the keyway, punch it. You see it came around almost to 10 o'clock. So it went right past the lock position, and now we could go ahead and take a end of a key or a screwdriver or something. We could, if the lock opens this direction, go ahead and open the lock. So that's how the plug spinner works, and that's a very important tool to have. It'll save you time instead of having to come back and pick this lock the other direction. And as I said earlier, some locks will not pick but in one direction. Now we have the lever handle lock left, and again, this is a little different because one, there's usually more play in these lever handle locks, and again, you're working from the horizontal. We'd go up, we'd get our diamond pick, check to make sure that the springs are moving, count to make sure it's only 5 pins in the lock. Get our tension wrench, put it in there, and take our rake and rake that a little bit and see if we can get it to open again. Get it to the bottom, start at the bottom, or at the back I mean, and come to the front. Start at the front, go to the back. Very light tension on this. Starting out. If we need medium or heavy tension, we can do that, but we start out with very light. Start at the front and go to the back. Start in the middle and go to the back and come frontwards. Start in the middle, come to the front, and then go back and get the back pins. Try a little bit from one side and then the other side. If that's not going to work, you've tried that for a little bit and you have to decide how long you're going to do each technique. But if it's not working, then go ahead and try your next pick. I would go to my half diamond pick next. I would come back and go to the back and come forward, light tension on the wrench. And I maybe begin to try some medium and alternating tension along through here. But now I'm really feeling for which pins feel like they're not cooperating. Which ones have the most resistance in there? Are we getting them up to the shear line? Start at the back, come forward. Start at the front and go to the back. Try in the middle on the number 3 pin, go to the back, come forward, get the 2 and then the 1. Try that a couple times. Start at the middle and come forward, then go and get the ones at the back. Some pin combinations are difficult, and also it's not possible to pick every lock. You will come across some locks that you will not be able to pick in a reasonable time, and that's when you go to other methods to bypass the lock or to get into the building some other way. Main thing you want to do is get the people in the building, get them in there, as quick as you can. But again, when you go up there, you want to try to relax and calm yourself, and they need to think it's going to take a few minutes for you to work. Some people don't. Some people think that you'll be able to pick that lock just like on TV when the guys walk up there and boom, they open every lock they come to like in 10 seconds. That's a little bit of a misconception some people have. Okay, so that didn't work. We'll go to the, with the hook pick, you can really feel the pins really good and see which ones are not cooperating with you. But let's say we tried this for a while. Maybe we tried both directions for a little bit. And we've been there for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and it just didn't want to come open. Then we can go to the pick gun, which I wanted to demonstrate anyway, and so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. This drawing illustrates the use of a pick gun to pop the pins up, and if you hit them and they fly up, there's going to be a separation between the bottom pin and the top pin, and we're going to try to take advantage of that gap right in there to turn the plug and open the lock. With the pick gun, put the wrench in there, very light tension with the pick gun. Turn the tension on your your gun, turn it all the way to the top towards the L to start out with the lightest tension. Do not stick the gun in too far. I'll use this cylinder to show what will happen if you put the gun in too far. Look, you're out the back of the lock. You're hitting back here, and so that's not going to be. You're not going to be able to pick that lock open like that. You need to get that back so it's only under the 5 pins. So it's only maybe an inch or so that's going to go into the lock. And so if it's not opening, check and see if maybe you're not putting that in there too far. Get the gun lined up under the pins. Again, not being in there too far. Give it a few clicks, very light tension. There it opened. That's the value of the pick gun. So I didn't really get a chance to demonstrate much with that, but had that not opened as quickly as it did, we would take this knob and turn it down a couple of turns towards heavier tension, and we would try again a few more clicks on the pick gun. If that doesn't work, then we turn it down again and go 4 or 5 clicks, turn it down again and go 4 or 5 clicks until you find the right combination. But normally with the pick gun, this tension wrench here will have very, very light tension. So we'll check and see if we'll go back to the top to very light tension, get underneath the pins, very light tension on the wrench, and there's the lock. You see the lock opened again. This lock did not want to open very easily with just using the other picks that we had available to us. 4 types of tension are light tension, medium tension, heavy tension, and alternating tension. Approach every lockout with a routine. Get written permission to open the lock. Ask where the key is, just to be sure you understand the exact problem with the lock. Check all doors and windows to see if any were left open. Check to make sure you are familiar with the lock. Don't be rushed. Tell the customer it may take a few minutes. Have a plan for picking the lock. Check for debris in the lock. Count the pin stacks in the lock. Check to make sure all the pins are moving freely. Spray the lock with lubricant. Know which picks to use. Have a plan for which order to use the picks. Have a pattern for how you're going to use each pick. Select an appropriate tension wrench. Decide which direction you want to turn the plug. Have a plan for applying and adjusting tension on the tension wrench. Know when to use a pick gun and know when to drill the lock. Okay, another tool I want to show you is the electric pick gun. This is Southord electric pick gun. There's many manufacturers of these. They're battery operated. They can flip the pins very fast, and we'll demonstrate this on a lock. I will tell you that many people are not successful with this tool. Many people seem to have better luck with a manual pick gun than they do with the electric pick gun, and I'm thinking that it probably just takes practice using the electric pick gun. Let's take a look at the instructions for using it. Okay, this gun does take 2 C-cell batteries. Talks about installing the pick in the gun, and it's pretty self-explanatory as to how that works. Says you can adjust the stroke using the Allen wrench to turn the adjusting screw located on the bottom of the unit. For most applications, a 1/8 inch movement at the tip end of the picking needle works well. So you may want to try to adjust your electric pick gun to that particular measurement of 1/8 of an inch movement. Then it talks about spraying graphite into the lock. Make sure that and of course what I use is WD-40, but you can use any lubricant in the lock. Just make sure all the pins are moving very well. And then the last instruction, it says to insert the tension wrench in the keyway below the picking needle. It says tension tool is used in place of a key to turn the lock. Apply very light, and it is, it underlines very light tension on the tool in the direction to unlock the lock. Now again, you can do it, you can turn the plug either way if you have your plug spinner to spin it back. Activate the pick by pushing the button at the top of the unit, touching the needle against the pins as it vibrates. It says do not run the pick constantly, but use start-stop pulsations for the best results. For the best results, start with simple locks such as a desk, file cabinet, or inexpensive deadbolt, and work your way up to more precise locks. Now on this pick gun, there's a knob that controls how much the needle will vibrate at the end, and I'll demonstrate here. I'll have a larger vibration and then I'll turn it down. Okay, so that's set right now at about 1/8 of an inch. But that's the, again, the manufacturer's recommendation for most locks. The other thing is that you can put the needle in straight, the picking needle in straight, and if it's not successful, you might raise the front of the pick a little bit or lower it a little bit and see if that will work, if just level doesn't seem to work. But normally level is the best position. But if it's not working, go ahead and try some other techniques. Okay, we have a quick set lock. It's locked. I've already shot some WD-40 in it to make sure that all the pins are moving freely and it's nice and loose. Put the pick in again level right underneath the pins. And you can go in there and you can feel them. Feel those pins a little bit. Get right underneath them, just touching them. There it is. That's simple. So, I'll do it again. So again, just put the pick gun right underneath don't push it in too far, just far enough to get all the pins. Right underneath them. There it is. To use an electric pick gun, set the pick to 1/8 of an inch movement. Insert the pick into the lock, just touching the lower pins. Hold the pick gun level and use short bursts. Use very light tension on the tension wrench. Please take just a moment to like the video and also subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.